Well, my name is Lynn Kinsman, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And the title of my talk today is How to Become an Elder Without Really Trying. I realized I'm probably one of the youngest presenters for Elder Tree so far. But when I heard the call for presenters, I thought, well, me, an elder? Nah, that's for other people to do. But then they said anybody older than Reverend Sherry is considered an elder, so come on, join us. So I gave some thought as to why I don't feel like an elder. So I was born Lynn Ellen Winchester in 1965. And that's the last year of the baby boom or the first year of Gen X, depending on your source of information. So throughout my career and my involvement with volunteering and church, I'm usually interacting with people older than myself, which makes you feel young. And because of this, I am still the baby in my work group at Kodak. I work at my 33 years at Eastman Kodak and Kodak Alaris. I'm still kind of the youngest one in my group. I have a late fall birthday, which made me the youngest one in my school cohort growing up. And I'm the youngest one in my own family. I have one older sister, as well as among my in-law siblings of my husband's family of 5 and their spouses. I'm the youngest one. So I kind of thought, yeah, I still feel like the young one around because of all these reasons. But I thought, it's a turning point in my life. The nest my husband and I have built is emptying of kidlings as of August 28th, at least temporarily. And I'm turning 55 this month. As a birthday present to myself, I thought I would indulge a little bit of reflection and time to take stock. So that's why I decided to say yes. So I can think about, what do I want this next phase of my journey to be like? So I've been a part of First Unitarian Church of Rochester for 33 years and one of this year's new batch of trustees. So I guess that qualifies me as an elder. So I'm going to add elder to my many identities. I am a neurotypical, able-bodied, hearing, sighted, white, Euro-American, heterosexual, cisgendered female. That's pretty long. So I'm going to frame my talk around 5 other identities, honoring this month's worship theme of holding nothing back. So the 5 things I want to talk about are being a daughter and sister, being a musician and performer, being an information technology professional, being a wife and mother, and being a Unitarian Universalist. So here we go. As a daughter and sister, I'll start. My parents, Jim and Judy Winchester, who are listening in today, they met as young adults in New York City, where they both ended up after growing up and going to college in the Midwest. My mom, a social work major, was working at the YWCA as their young adult director. And Dad, a journalist and Air Force veteran, got a job in corporate public relations, high up in the Empire State Building. He attended a young adult meetup event at the YWCA that my mom was running. As soon as he walked in, she tells her story. She says, "He's the one." They got to talking, but Mom knew she wasn't supposed to be social with the guests at the event. As it turned out, they had something else in common. He was attending the Unitarian church services, and she'd been going to another group at the same Unitarian church in Brooklyn on Sunday nights. So as the story goes, they met up there the next Sunday, and the rest is history. So I have the UU Church to thank for my existence. So they married in 1961 and moved to Queens, and then later to the New Jersey side of the river, with where my sister Christine was born soon after. 3 years later, I came along. The same week they moved into a new suburban home in Morristown, New Jersey. In about 4 more years, my dad's work in journalism and public relations moved them to Reading, Pennsylvania area. We briefly lived in a home in view of the under construction Berkshire Mall. It was 1969, Malls were springing up everywhere. And we lived there while they built their dream house out in the woods. That is the home I remember from my early childhood. Wooded and quiet and plenty of outdoor play with a tree house my dad built for Chris and I, and roller skating in the garage, and making ink from squishing the berries on bushes, and doing tricks in our swing set, and playing dolls outdoors in the rustic backyard. I remember summer campfire girl camp. I remember 4-H club. It was definitely idyllic, safe, and very happy. During these years, we attended the UU Church in Reading. It's now called First Unitarian Universalist Church of Berks County. I have childhood memories of RE classes making puppets. I also remember running around the sanctuary while the parents talked and talked and talked at coffee hour. I remember watching a volunteer each week change the little plastic letters for the sign out front to show the information for the coming week. And I remember the big red doors of that old building, which, checking their website, are still there and they're still red. Other childhood memories, going to the big public library in Reading, community Easter egg hunts in Reading in view of the pagoda on the top of the hill, YWCA swim classes, and even baton twirling, I think. Visits from Fresh Air Kids my parents would host in the summers, and we would go camping in our pop-up trailer, and sometimes close by and other times far away. Mom did volunteer work and later waitressing to help out when Dad was laid off in the mid-1970s economic downturn. My parents are currently living in Knoxville, Tennessee, where they are active in the West Side Unitarian Universalist Church. My mom tends the planters and the memorial garden, and Dad is now both visually and hearing impaired, but keeps a good outlook on life and a great sense of humor, and they have visited our church many times, so perhaps you've met them. And Dad with his white cane and cochlear implant. And hopefully they can join us again sometime when this COVID-19 pandemic has lifted and that we can all travel again. So I miss them very much. And they're on the call today. Hi, Mom and Dad. So my sister, Christine, lives in Philadelphia area where she works as a realtor. She and her husband, a children's performer, often perform together as a duo Winchester Perry, playing original songs by both of them. And they are active leaders in the Thomas Paine UU Fellowship. They have visited our church for Christmas Eve services many times with their daughter Allison, so you may have met them as well. So, moving on to another identity, musician and performer. My dad is an accomplished Dixieland jazz and ragtime piano player, all by ear. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it. He played for fun at home during those early years in Pennsylvania, but later on in nightclubs professionally. Mom loves to sing along with Dad's piano and was in the Sweet Adeline's barbershop chorus for a while. And now she loves singing karaoke. There was always music in our house. Dad has an extensive record collection, introducing me to Spike Jones and the Great American Songbook at an early age. Dad also played the violin as a teenager, so I started violin in 4th grade and chorus too. I remember loving to play first violin in the orchestra at my intermediate school, about 5th or 6th grade. But in December of 6th grade, we made a big move. Dad had tried running his own PR agency for a while, but his entrepreneurial bug drew him to take their love of camping and turn it into becoming campground owners. They sold that dream house they'd built, and we moved to Lake Luzerne, New York, in the foothills of the beautiful Adirondack Mountains, where we purchased a small family campground we called Swiss Trail Campsites. It was 1976, the bicentennial. I was 11 and my sister 14. We owned the campground for 9 years until I was almost done with college. We worked as a family, raking and cleaning the bathhouse and the pool. We ran the camp store, hosting outdoor movies and hay rides, and getting to know the seasonal and transient tenters and RVers who love the outdoors. We were open year-round, attracting many snowmobilers during the snowy winters, enjoying the Lake George Winter Carnival. To supplement our income, Dad went into selling life insurance, and Mom restarted her social work career, working for Head Start and then the Warren County Child Protective Services for many years until her retirement. That's not to say things were easy for them. I remember free school lunches, and I do remember a year where we decided to not do any Christmas gifts. But we were very close and a very loving family, and we got through that period. I have found very fond memories of Mom taking us to shows at the Lake George Opera Festival and Broadway touring shows at Proctor's in Schenectady, and to the New York City Ballet at their summer home at SPAC in Saratoga. I went to middle and high school with many other kids of tourist business owners. The school was small and rural. I was a big fish in a very little pond at that point. My group of nerdy friends liked to play D&D and solve the Rubik's Cube, and when we could, we'd visit the arcade and play Missile Command and Centipede and other games. The school didn't have a string program, but I took violin privately for a couple years in nearby Glens Falls. Without an orchestra to play with, I soon lost interest and switched to piano and dance lessons. From 8th grade through high school, I did tap and jazz dance in 1 or 2 dance schools each year, with June recitals with lots of costumes and kick lines and solos and duets, and it was so much fun. I also tried out cheerleading, and I sang in choir at school and got the chance to go to several all-county and area all-state festivals, even being the first from my school to be in the NYSSMA Conference All-State Choir in my senior year. Our school didn't do much musicals at that time, but I was in the school play the 3 years we had one. 1 year of high school, we had an austerity budget, so drama got cut. But another highlight was being a runner-up in the New York's Junior Miss Pageant, and that's the statewide pageant, and winning an award for the talent portion, which was a tap dance in a costume that my mother made. I was on cloud 9 that whole senior year for all these different wonderful experiences I got to have and expanding my horizons. And I graduated valedictorian in my class of 77 graduates. So in about 8th grade, I had an epiphany moment when I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And that was a librarian. I volunteered in the school library, and I felt like I had found my calling. That is, until high school, when we got a grant to construct a computer room across the back of the math classroom and fill it in with Radio Shack TRS-80s, or Trash 80s as we call them, with cassette tape machines to store the programs we made. I caught that computer bug at that point, and after graduation, I decided to crisscross through the Adirondacks and attend SUNY Potsdam College, where I could major in computer science and math, and also soak in all the great musicianship at the Crane School of Music. And boy, did I. That's a choice that I still feel today was the absolute best right thing for me. My first semester, I was in the chorus for my first musical, which was Sweeney Todd. And by senior year, I had landed a lead in their production of Guys and Dolls as Sarah Brown. And that's to this day the most demanding role I've ever had in a show, and a highlight I think back on a lot. I sang in the 200-voice Crane chorus, and by senior year I made it into the select Crane concert choir. By far the highlight of these years was the summer of 1986, when Crane was providing the chorus for the Liberty Weekend opening ceremonies in New York City. We were on national television on the same stage when President Reagan and First Lady Nancy relit the Lady Liberty's torch after extensive renovations. An all-star cast danced and sang right in front of the choir for those evening festivities, and the fireworks erupted behind us. It was an experience I'll never, ever forget. And that October, the choir premiered a new work dedicated to the Statue of Liberty, with the New York Philharmonic at Lincoln Center, conducted by Zubin Mehta, which I also participated in. And the piece was called On Freedom's Ground. And what an honor, still unmatched to this day for me, were those experiences. A few years after graduation, I joined a Crane Choir for Europe tour made of alumni, faculty, and students. And we did a 2-week tour of Germany, Austria, and Italy. And that, again, for me, is an unmatched musical experience of my life. Singing in wonderful cathedrals and wherever we could, even on the boat ride over to Venice, we just, the choir just decided to sing one of our songs. It was a wonderful trip. So moving on to the next identity, information technology professional. In 1987, I graduated from Potsdam with my BA in liberal arts degree, and I was hired via campus recruiting to work at Eastman Kodak Company in Rochester, New York. I'd never been to Western New York before, and I had no idea where Rochester was. I joined their IT department as a PL1 programmer and a systems analyst. And really, it was my dream job, right at the intersection of where technology and people collide, right? How can the technology help the business? I was working on the computer systems that ran this giant company with an iconic brand, and it was perfect. At that time, we rotated on-call duties, getting awoken at night by the pager if one of the overnight batch jobs abended, or bad ending, abend was the word we use, and needed immediate attention so that the systems would be back up and running by the morning. Kodak was very good to me, and they even paid for my master's degree. I got 2 days off a week for 2 years to go to Syracuse University, and in 1993, earned an MS in Information Resources Management from what is now called their iSchool, their School of Information Studies. So I got to kind of combine my love of being a librarian with computer technology. Their iSchool has a library science degree as well, but I opted to do the Information Resource Management degree. I worked through all kinds of different projects, highlights being the Y2K, switching over the computer systems in 1999 to get ready for the 4-digit year of 2000. And I witnessed a lot of change, from starting out with mainframe computers to client server and PCs being introduced, to the internet, to getting tiny and tinier laptops, to tablets and mobile phones. So everything has changed in the 30 plus years I've been in this business. As programming became more and more technical and specialized, I moved more into project management and business analysis, where I design a system or select third-party software. I write the specs and work with the business to conduct the testing and train the users, and then maintain and support it afterwards. And it's very satisfying, and I can say it's never dull. I was active in a women's forum of Kodak employees networking group for many years, where I was a board member, and when our first Facebook page was created, and we put together our first social media strategy. And I got to do some traveling to implement different IT projects. I got to go to Mexico, Belgium, the UK, and within the US to Chicago and to California. I'm very grateful to have had these world experiences, and I really do love to see the world. It's just hard to get there, especially when you're working. So having those business trips has really expanded my view of the world. I was hired just after Kodak's peak in size as a company. The decline had already started, but really picked up pace through the 1990s and 2000s. The few people hired after me were quickly gone in the first few rounds of cuts. So I stayed one of the youngest people in my department from then on. I managed to survive each set of layoffs, proud and happy to be working at the photo giant, never having known any other job in my adult life. The constant cutbacks were tiresome, though. So in 2013, Kodak was in Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection and needed to divest some businesses. So I jumped at the chance to go with them. We formed a new company called Kodak Alaris, where I still work now, with many of the same people who came from Eastman Kodak. I'm still one of the youngest ones on the team. So it really does feel, so it doesn't feel like I can be an elder right now. So moving on to my fourth identity, wife and mother. This fall marks a turning point for me. My husband and I have become empty nesters. So I guess I should back up a bit and tell you a bit how we got there. Soon after arriving in Rochester, I started attending this church. I knew I wanted to reconnect with my UU roots after college, and I needed to make new friends and find community in Rochester. So that fall, I joined the dance choir at church and the 20s and 30s group, which was called TNT. I also got involved with some drama for the Canvas Entertainment show that spring. It was a Wizard of Oz spoof where I played Dorothy. Dick Gilbert was the lion, if anybody remembers that. I still have people tell me they remember that show, even just as recently as a few months ago. Through these groups, I met my future husband, Thomas Kinsman, who is also listening in today. He actually attended RE classes at Rochester Unitarian as a child. So we're both lifelong UUs. We made a connection right away, but some time passed before I could move on past my former college beau that had become a difficult long-distance arrangement that just wasn't meant to be. So once I could release that, I finally said yes in 1991 to Thomas. I remember announcing our engagement during one Sunday service during Joys and Sorrows time. We were married in 1993, just after finishing my master's degree. So we had a long engagement. During that long engagement, we took a pre-honeymoon trip to Europe, which was a highlight for us. Thomas at that time was an electrical and software engineer, also working at Eastman Kodak, and a magician on the side. His local family swooped me up as one of their own. He has since gotten his PhD in imaging science at RIT and is now a full-time lecturer in their computer science school, and he loves it. He likes to be called a wonderologist, and edutainment is his calling right now. He does RIT outreach programs to generate interest in science in area middle and high schools, and he does the maker fairs and Imagine RIT festivals, showing off different kinds of computer projects that kids can do on their own and learn. Currently, he has been adapting his teaching style during this COVID-19 era of remote learning to engage the students in new ways over Zoom, and so we're both working at home. In our own rooms during the day. So it's been a new experience for us being here together more. Soon after arriving in Rochester, I got involved in the community theater scene, playing in the chorus of several big stage shows, and also joining Rochester Oratorio Society and the chamber group Madrigalia for a few years, and several other choral groups. I also joined this church's choir in 1988 and have been singing there weekly to this day, well, until COVID-19 has separated us all as a group, but you know what I mean. I've also been very involved in our drama group, now called First Light Players, performing in many cabarets and musicals staged here at our church, as well as our Crescendo Fund Committee, which was formed when Ed Shell retired, volunteering for RAIN and the Rummage Sale, and many other projects. And I'm honored to be a new member of the church's Board of Trustees. One more important identity to touch on, and that is probably the most important one of all, and that is of mother. In '97, the first of our two children arrived, and the second one in 2002. They both were raised in the RE program here at church, from birth through youth group, and both went to Unirondack for summer camps as teens. They both say that those experiences saved their lives by giving them the language, the courage, and the support to come out as transgender in their teen years. So that's right, both are transgendered. Knowing you have never felt right about yourself or how you relate to the world must be so scary, and for a tween or teen. to come to realize. And figuring out what would make it right. Transitioning genders must be even more scary. They've both made that leap with determination and bravery, and it humbles me to see them so brave. As a parent, it's heartbreaking at first, since the person you thought you were raising isn't really there anymore. But since the start, I knew it really wasn't about Thomas and me. It's about enabling them to be their full human beings that they were meant to be. They also both identify as gay or bi or pansexual or non-binary. I'm not really sure which words they're preferring these days because it changes. But they're both right now in supportive relationships, and that just makes me so happy. Because one of the things you fear as a parent of trans kids is, who's going to love my child? And I'm thrilled that they're both experiencing intimacy and love as a normal part of their life now. So these kids, these amazing two kids who I love so much. Devin, whose pronouns are he, him, his, attended SUNY at Buffalo and is now 23 and working as a civil engineer in the Syracuse area. He is active with the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Syracuse. Devin studied abroad in Scotland for a year and loves knitting, gardening, cooking, canning, taught himself to play the guitar and loads of other hobbies, and just amazes me every day. Eris's pronouns are she, her, hers. She just turned 18 and is a freshman at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont, studying game design. Which brings me back to my point about becoming empty nesters just a few months ago. It's temporary, though, as most colleges are. Champlain's sending everyone home this Thanksgiving to finish the semester from home. So we'll be seeing Eris soon enough. I hope she is finding the freedom she needs to express her inner self to the world, which has been bottled up for way too long. Eris struggles with anxiety, which has opened my eyes to the vastly different ways people see the world. I've tried to learn how to advocate for someone, even when I can't take away their struggle. So that's the 5 identities that I wanted to talk about, the 5th being Unitarian Universalist, which I've tried to thread throughout my talk. But there's all kinds of identities yet to be realized. So at this turning point, as it arrives in my life, I see ahead of me some identities not yet fully formed. Those may be librarian, maybe my retirement job someday, director of plays, thinking about what I can do with First Light players or others to expand my drama work. Traveler and outdoor explorer, there's still so much to see. I hope to get back to Europe or other continents someday. And most importantly, the identity that's growing is ally. The LGBT plus people's rights are being whittled away. Anti-racism takes a village. Accessibility and inclusion of visually and hearing impaired people needs support. Women still need equal pay and access to reproductive services. The Me Too movement hits home for me too. Erasing mental health stigma is another important initiative. These are all not my struggles, but struggles I can help with as an ally. And I realize that I am in a place of privilege, which I need to remember and humbly advocate for those justice-making goals. I hope to live into these new roles as I move through my life, and I hit my 55th birthday in a couple weeks, and hopefully many, many decades to come. So that's the end of my prepared words. I do have a couple of photos I wanted to share to kind of highlight some of the things I mentioned. And so I'm going to share my screen if I can. Host has disabled screen sharing. Libby, can you let me share?
I think I can. I'm just going to. I'm going to make you co-host.
Okay. Maybe.
That should. And see if that works.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Now I can share. Let's see. I'm going to share this. So you should be seeing a photo application.
We do.
You can see it. Good. So I just have about 8 pictures. I just wanted to underscore some of the stories I told. So this is my family, my mom and dad, and me here in the red. Well, we're all in red. The one standing up. And my sister Christine, this is 1969 Christmas. And why is it not advancing to the next one? There it is. There's the little arrow. This is a picture of Christine and I on our play set in the backyard of that wooded Pennsylvania home that I love so much. And I like this picture because it really does show the rustic backyard we had, and our Chris and I doing things together, and just, you know, both doing our little back bend. Yeah, I'm the one in the back here, and just we did everything together. We were pals, you know, growing up together in the woods. This is a picture of our entrance to our campground. I grew up with Paul Bunyan. Did you know that? Paul Bunyan stood at the entrance to Swiss Trail Campsites, which is the name we gave the place when we purchased it. It used to be called Swiss Campsites, I think. And this is early on when after we had our new road sign built. This is a picture of the Liberty Weekend opening ceremonies choir, the Crane Chorus, with the Statue of Liberty and the fireworks behind us. I'm somewhere right about there. And this is the Herald Trumpets that were part of the event, with a new fanfare written by John Williams, so you probably heard that. And he was actually conducting the orchestra that was sat on the other side of the stage from us. This is a picture of me in that early 1988 Canvas Entertainment show, playing Dorothy in a Wizard of Oz spoof at church. And this is Dick Gilbert as the lion. Now, zooming forward in time, this is a picture from a few years ago with Devin and Eris and I at church in the springtime when they were both home. And this is Devin and Devin's partner, Luca, taken this summer. And this is July of this summer with Thomas and I and Eris getting ready for Eris to drive over to Frontier Field for Penfield High School graduation while we watched it on TV from home. Very strange way to have a graduation, but it worked. So that's all I have to share.